Good afternoon, YouTube world. I'm your host, Paul Italia. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. It is my proud pleasure to introduce today's special guest. He is a legend of our sport. He's been around from the beginning, helping grow our sport and evolve the whole way through. Leonard Harkless, welcome, brother. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on, bro. It's an honor to have you on, bro. And for any of you newbies out there, you might not know Leonard, or you might just know him as the referee, but Leonard has been around from the beginning. He's been growing our sport for actually, how long has it been, brother? How many years?
Well, look, I got out of high school in 1978. And my first tournament was June of 1978. I hadn't turned 18 years old yet. And Sylvester Stallone did a movie, pretty over the top. And here's a good trivia question. How many people know that Sylvester Stallone arm wrestled in a movie before Over the Top? The movie was called Paradise Alley. And there was one scene in the movie that he arm wrestled. And our local movie theater did a promotional arm wrestling tournament with our promoter in town. The promoter's name was Jim Wright. He's still pulling in the Ultra Grandmaster 70 Plus or whatever the heck that division is.
Where's he from?
He's from here in Billings, Montana.
Oh, very cool.
Anyway, he did a promotional tournament for the Fox Theater. And I was 17 years old. All the drinking age in Montana was 18. So he had been doing tournaments, but I couldn't get into the bars because all the tournaments were basically in bars. I mean, we haven't grown that much away from. There's still a fair amount of tournaments in bars, but I couldn't get into the bars, and they did. And probably 70% of us arm wrestlers are ex-wrestlers. We enjoy that physical one-on-one competition. I win or lose on my own efforts. If I lost a match or if I lose, I gotta get smarter, stronger, faster, or maybe a combination of those three. And I have direct control over those. And that's what drew me to the sport once I got out of high school. Anyway, I got second in my first tournament, and it kind of hooked me. Well, then, later in the year, once I turned 18, then my second tournament was at a bar called the Drifters, and my mom went with me. My mom entered the ladies open class. I went 2-2, and she took second place. My mom was a tough lady, absolutely. So anyway, so that's how I got started in the sport was in 1978. So I've and I actively compete. I was a competitor up to 2002, when we hosted the Worlds in Springfield, Illinois, and I was voted by WF to be the head referee for the World. Well, that one, and I wasn't going to pull anyway because Denise and I were the hosts. So I wasn't going to pull in that tournament anyway. But I actively competed up to that point. And I became the WF head referee in 2002 at that point. So my competition days were done at that point.
Wow, that is pretty impressive. But there's a lot to unpack here, brother. Let's slow down a little. I want to go back to the beginning when you first started, when you were 17 years old, and I kind of want to get a sense of where was arm wrestling at. As far as how many people are going to these tournaments. Was it well known then, or was it like literally just in the bars in an underground kind of setting?
If you've been in the sport as long as I have, or guys like Bob Brown, you'll see waves. You'll see highs and lows where arm wrestling will gain popularity, and for whatever reason, it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit. Oddly enough, in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a lot of arm wrestling happening around the U.S. We had a local guy. His name was Michael Bryan. He really was a professional arm wrestler. He was really that good. And Jim was kind of his protege. Just that Mike didn't like putting on tournaments that much, and Jim Jim enjoyed it, right? To give you an example, they spent an entire year in '79 where they got in a motorhome and they traveled around the U.S. and arm wrestled in pro tournaments. Now, you got to remember, if I'm using the term pro, that means there's money being given out. Denise and I are pretty particular about that. You see any of our events, if we say pro, that means there's money being given out. And if there isn't money being given out, then
It's
we
an
call
open
it
class.
open, right?
Okay.
And so we're kind of particular. And so anyway, they traveled around the U.S. in a motorhome, pulling every week in professional arm wrestling tournaments around the country. Every week they were arm wrestling in a tournament around the country. Now I know Michael Todd kind of did this here recently, but they were actually arm wrestling in professional tournaments every weekend around the country. It's kind of interesting. And Mike had the money. His parents had a business in town, and so he had a little bit of funds to be able to finance this. But once they got on the road, they paid for the expenses by their winnings in arm wrestling tournaments. So in the late '70s, early '80s, there was actually as much or more arm wrestling around the United States as there is now. There was several organizations doing events, the WPA and so on and so forth. There was actually a lot of arm wrestling in that era.
Leonard, let me ask you, brother, who were the guys in our sport then? Like when you were 17 years old, who was the guy that you looked up to? Was there like a famous, because I think this is way before John Brzezink's time and all. So most of the time you hear, John Brzezink, but this is pre John Brzezink. So who was like the guy that you looked up to?
John Brzezink won his first world championship in 1980 or so. He was like 18 years old. Yeah. John's been the man for a long time, but in reality, back then it was Clay Rosencrans, Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker and Clay Rosencrans had a really good rivalry going, and sometimes Johnny would win, sometimes Clay would win. Clay won Petaluma one year with a chin move that they didn't call. Of course, it's on TV. Where he actually used his chin to pin Walker. And refereeing back then was a little rough and tumble. Like it's hard to fault the Petaluma referees because they did one tournament a year.
But let me hold on. Let me ask you, Leonard. I want to know, how did you guys follow Johnny Walker back then? Because we didn't have social media, obviously. So how were you able to, were they on TV? Was the tournaments broadcasted? So like, how were you a fan back then?
Well, Petaluma was televised by Wide World of Sports, and the wrist wrestling portion of that program was the highest rated sport that they were offering. They did downhill skiing, they did powerlifting, they did all kinds of, that was their shtick, the Wide World of Sports. And these were all not necessarily name brand sports like baseball and basketball and football. And the World Wrist Wrestling in Petaluma was the highest rated show that they had, and it was shown every year. We look forward to watching it, and I watched Clay Rosencrans and Johnny Walker and whatnot arm wrestling at Petaluma. Petaluma really was the World Championship. Now I know WAF was doing events back then, but because of Wide World of Sports, WAF had nothing on Petaluma. They were actually getting international competitors coming in because it was televised by Wide World of Sports. And
I couldn't even imagine, bro, getting on there and just, being on ESPN and seeing everybody seeing you like worldwide and all that. That had to be such just an amazing experience. So I feel like that was the big stage back then.
It was, and their audience is a lot bigger than what ESPN. I mean, on that Sunday when it was being shown, we had 3 channels, dude. Wow. If you were watching TV on Sunday, that's what you were. That was one of the 3 options, and their audience level was massive. It really was. I mean, I went to Petaluma the first year in, I think, 1980, 81. It was single elimination. You lose once, you're gone. I think it was 80, and that's exactly what happened my first year. I was one and done.
Wow.
I think 82, 83, the years I went, I had over 100 guys in my weight class.
Wow, that
In my
is
weight
just
class.
that's like unheard of today. And then the other thing I want to say, throw in there is, just the fans alone, there would be 1,500 people going to these events where, it would literally be maxed out. That's all they would let in there. A bunch of people were turned away and it was standing room only. Like this was like a big deal back then. And I just want to throw out there for all the listeners and everything. I really, truly value the history of arm wrestling. And this is something that we need to talk more about and kind of educate the newbies on, because this is, this is where our background has come from. This is how our sports evolved. You see a lot of things that we were doing back then are now recycling and starting to be used today. So definitely encourage you guys to take a look at Petaluma Wrist Wrestling. Thanks to Dave Devoto and Bill Soberanis. They were the founders and fathers, so to say, of World Wrist Wrestling. It was located in Petaluma, California. They brought the world in, like you said, they were on sports. They even had Snoopy comics made about them. And, this was like the big thing back in the day. And I just want to say a quick hello to a couple of people in the chats. We got West Coast Arm Wrestling, Israel. What's up, brother? How you doing? Matthias in the house, Arm Historian, Jody Williams, USS Liberty. I want to say what's up to everybody. If you guys haven't already, just click that thumbs up. And I truly value this interview right now with Leonard. Leonard has been around, like he was just saying, from back in 1977. Truly from the beginning, where it all began. And then he started, what was the year of your first reffing and everything? Was that 1980, you said?
Yeah, I mean, Jim Wright worked for the railroad, and so he was doing Billings tournaments, obviously, but as he traveled around Montana and Wyoming, if he would stop in a town for a week or more, he'd put on a tournament in that local town. And those of us in Billings, we would travel to those tournaments. Like, it was nothing for us to drive 6, 8, 10 hours to go arm wrestle. And there was no prize money for those type tournaments. We were arm wrestling because we wanted to compete. Sometimes I kind of internally laugh when people go, well, if I can't make money at it, then I don't want to go. Well, dude, do you make money playing softball? Do you make money playing darts or bowling or?
And first off, if you're coming in just for the money, arm wrestling's not the sport for you to jump into, guys. There's a lot more out there for that.
Arm wrestling, like there's very few sports that you're gonna even recoup your travel expenses. Look, you're arm wrestling because you enjoy the competition, you enjoy the event, right? And if you're doing it for something other than that, then you're right. You're in the wrong sport, and I don't know what sport you're going to go to. That's gonna give you that money, right? I mean, like. And I know it sounds bad, but I publicly say that guys have to do something. We bowl, we play darts, we play pool, we play softball, we arm wrestle. Look, if we don't do something other than work in our family, we got our butt in trouble.
Yeah,
and so
100%.
We need something else to occupy us. And luckily I picked up on arm wrestling, and I've been really fortunate, and all the guys out there that are competing that says they want to make money or this, that, and the other, whether a sport you're going to get that you can travel internationally, where you can travel around the U.S. When we're going to Malaysia this year, right? Yeah. Well, it isn't like you just pick a spot on the map and you're going to go to Malaysia and you know nobody there. You know what I mean? Like hotels are set up for us. We have local people to help us on tours, and it's entirely different process traveling international for arm wrestling, because you're traveling in a group and you're traveling with friends.
And Leonard,
And
you got to remember, bro, we're part of a brotherhood that runs worldwide. So you know, you might not
absolutely.
have actually met them in person yet, but that is your brother you're going to, and they're always very welcoming, and they always throw a big practice. And you know, anywhere I go, I always, that's the first thing I do. Oh, who's the local team? Got to contact them, let them know the dates I'm in, and you know, that's kind of like the universal thing in arm wrestling world, and I love that. But hold on one second, we just got to knock out a super chat. We got a $5 super chat from Co1Yours. High five. Is that the high five crew from they got a big event coming up August 26th, Knuckles Up. Thank you. I appreciate that super chat, guys. And Luca is in the chat. What's up, Luca? Mr. Peanut, how you doing? Love it, love it. So Leonard, I want to talk about, there was a big controversy this past week, and it dealt with two athletes. It was Devin Lorette and Ryan Espy. And we all know that Devin went and pulled the Canadian Nationals, and he met up with Ryan Espy in there, and you know, they had a heated battle. Devin kind of dominated him, but there was a lot of trash talking going back and forth. And I guess there was a lot of off the table back and forth, so to say, Ryan Espy was saying was going on. So Ryan put in for a violation against Devin with the ethics committee, you know, and saying that I guess he was just out of line and he didn't want to see that happen again. So Leonard, you being one of the head refs of our sport, I kind of consider you like the grandmaster referee of arm wrestling. I kind of just want to get your thoughts on that whole situation. Like, you know, do you think it was a legit complaint that was brought up to the ethics committee?
Well, you know, look, whether it was a legit complaint or wasn't a legit complaint, that's really up to the ethics committee to make that decision, right? I mean, just because you complain about something doesn't make it so. But on the other hand, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the right to issue a complaint. And that's what Ryan did. Now,
hold on. One more point I got to throw in there. And Leonard, that is Ryan being the president of that organization. So I just wanted to throw that tidbit in there.
Right, and he's the president of the organization, but frankly, it's a separate committee. He has no special pull with that committee than if any other Canadian had issued a complaint. And as the official part, as a referee, there's really not much that a referee is going to be able to do at the tournament. Now, the tournament official that's running the event, they could have walked over to Ryan and said, "Look, dude, chill out. This is a national championship. This isn't a super match. You know, be respectful. And if you won't be respectful, then I'm not going to let you pull." Now, the tournament, the guy running the tournament, he had that right, and he could have done that. He obviously didn't, and I'm not faulting him for it. I'm just saying, as the referee, there's not much the referee's going to do about that.
There's nothing you could do as far as warning or anything like that. And would you, if you were in that situation, that particular one, would you have stepped in and did anything?
If I was running the tournament, had nothing to do with being a referee. If I was running the tournament, I would have went over and asked him to dial it back, that this is a national championship. This isn't a professional super match thing. To dial it back, to stop doing this. And again, I'm not faulting him for it. Everybody has their own comfort level. My comfort level is a little bit different. Maybe it comes from being a referee for a long time that I'm kind of brutal and upfront about stuff, and so I don't worry about
you're hardened to that life. It's that referee life.
Yeah. People, I've been cursed out by more languages on earth than anybody. and I may not know what words they're using, but I get the idea, and that's fine. It obviously doesn't bother me. It's part of the deal. Frankly, you know, a lot of people don't think about this, but the referees are the reason that there isn't physical fights in arm wrestling tournaments. There's a certain number of guys that just can't handle losing. And so if it's just something casual in a bar or somewhere like that, and the guy can't handle losing, the first thing he says is, well, then 2 out of 3. Well, then he loses the second time, and now it's you cheated or you did this or you did that, right? Well, in a tournament, they just blame the ref. It's his fault. He didn't catch it. He didn't do this. He didn't do that, and they can be mad at us, and they can say whatever. And you're expected to shrug that off. You're expected to not become emotionally invested in any particular arm wrestling match. It's part of the reason why I was so dismissive or critical of what Joey Costello did at the USAF National. I think that was totally inappropriate. What he did.
Can you I don't know that whole situation. Can you please?
Well, I mean, he had a difficult match with Austin Tevis, I think is his last.
Oh, okay.
And there was some talking going on, and Austin false started on this kid. And Austin's like really good. He's one of the elite in the United States. He really is that good. And he false started on the kid, and the kid he was arm wrestling with immediately knew that he had no chance at this, and so they said, and again, we don't have dialogue on exactly what was said, but then they set up again, and the kid just laid down. He just literally laid down, and as Austin, and so Joey called match, and as Austin left the table, he said something to Joey. It was probably not very nice. And Joey it pissed him off. And he went into all kinds of hand signals. Basically, he must have done like a half a dozen hand signals, and then called match for the other kid. He took away the win. Now look, by rule, once that referee raises his hand and says match, the only way to reverse that is an official protest. It's not the referee's ability to then reverse all of his calls and give and then call some sort of unsportsmanlike conduct foul after the match is over, and then give the match to your opponent. You just can't do that. And I actually did a little not really a meme, but I kind of quipped online that we should all adopt the new Joey Costello rule, that if the arm wrestler pisses you off, then you should have the ability to reverse all your calls and call the match for your opponent. Whether they did anything or not, you should have that ability, right? And of course, I was just joking, but I was upset about it. It goes to the credibility of us being official. You have to be able to handle criticism. You have to be able to not. You can be upset. You just can't let it affect you. Yeah. And I'll give you. I haven't always. I've matured in this. Like I'll never forget the time that it actually really sunk into me. We were at Lake Tahoe at our pro-am that we used to do in Lake Tahoe every year, and David Owens Sr. This was early 90s, and David Owens Sr. had intentionally pushed his opponent off of the pad, created a foul, and it was pretty obvious. And obviously called the foul on him, but I was just like morally indignant that he would just deliberately try to screw his opponent about it. And I allowed myself to get mad. I allowed myself to become emotionally invested in what happened. And Bob Brown came over to me and said, "Dude, why are you mad? Did that affect you? Yeah. Did that affect you personally? Like, don't let yourself get emotionally invested in this stuff." And it stuck with me so much that when me and the other master referees with WAF created 2 sheets of how to be a better referee. And dude, it's like number 1 or number 2 on my list that we published. I obviously took that lesson to heart, and I really believe that the official our number one job, besides setting up a fair match and getting good goes, is to be neutral, to not really care who wins or loses. It's not our fault that they elbow fouled. It's not our fault that they did X, Y, and Z. You make the calls as you see them, and it's not on us.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to say we got James Fitzsimmons in the house. What's up, James? How you doing, brother? James been in the sport a very, very long time. Great pull out of Massachusetts. Pulls with Jerry Cataract. And we got John Hutchinson in the house from Florida. You know, a funny story about John is, John throws a big practice up by Orlando in Florida. And I didn't know it was him that throws the practice. And somebody else actually invited me to that practice. Well, me not knowing it was John's house, I was like, "Hey, John, what are you doing that day, bro? You should come through." He goes, "Actually, that's my house." I was like, "Oh, it's great. I love inviting the host to his own practice and everything." But yeah, so Leonard, I also want to bring up, there was always a question I had for you, and that pertains to the Travis Bagent beef. I know you guys had, some issues. You and Denise and were one side, and Travis was the other. And I've only got to hear Travis's side. I've heard it on the Gary Roberts show. I remember, probably like a year or so ago, and I've heard his own version in person and all. And I always wanted to hear your side of the whole story. And I also was interested because I know with the USAA, there is only one person banned on this planet. Am I correct saying that? And that person would be Travis Bagent from your guys' organization?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's where the lead up to this is. How did that all come about, bro? Like, where did we have that big fallout and all that?
But first off, Denise honestly didn't have anything to do with this. And one of the things that distresses me is, like, if Travis has got a beef with me or we have an issue, he's more than welcome to talk to me personally. But he can't help but draw her into this. Like, she didn't have anything to do with this. I'll give you an example of why the whole thing kind of irritates me. Denise is at a WL event, and he cornered her there, screaming, yelling at her. Cobra had to pull him off of her because he was physically talking about how he was going to kick her ass. Like, ooh, that's a tough man there, right?
But how did we get to that? Like, how did that all?
Well, we got to it. You gotta remember, I was in the trophy business and shirts. He had a benefit tournament.
Now give me an idea of how long ago, what year was this?
2002.
Okay, 2002.
And he had a benefit tournament. I'll be honest, I don't even remember who exactly the benefit was for, but Denise flew out there on her own dime to help him run this benefit tournament, right? And he bought trophies and he bought shirts from me. And this is 2002, so it was a $900 order, and which is a pretty decent size order. Well, he gave us we had the wrong address. We had his previous address. Now, Denise was out there like 3-4 days ahead of time, and they got shipped to his old address. And Denise tells him, "All right, I'll go get the product," right? Nope, I got it. He kept insisting he's got it. Well, he waited till the freaking morning of the tournament to go over there, and the people were gone. So he didn't get his product. Okay. So I told him, well, all right.
So let me just clarify the whole thing. So you guys were all working together. He ordered some trophies for his event. Denise came on her own dime. She met him there, and she already shipped the trophies to his previous address because that's where she sent them last time.
That's the address we had, right? And so we send him out there. He doesn't go pick him up. He doesn't go till the morning of, and the people were gone. He didn't get his product.
So let me ask you, when did you guys find out there was a problem? You know, like, did you
like 4 days ahead of time? They were there 4 days ahead of time, and that's why she offered to go get him to make sure we had him or make sure he had him, so there's no issues. And they kept insisting that he's got it. He's fine. You don't have to go get him. All right. Well, then, like I said, he waited till the last minute, and the people were gone. They weren't there. So
now the trophies are locked in. You know, say it's the tournament's on Saturday. He goes on Friday night to go grab them. Now these people are away. He can't get access to them. Tournaments the next day. Now he has no trophies, no nothing.
Well, it's the shirts too. And so what I told him is, send them back to me, no cost. And several messages about this, and then finally he says, well, I can't send them back because I gave them all out to everybody. I gave them out for free to everybody. Well, wait a minute now. You can't give out my product and then not pay for it. Now I want you to pay for it because you gave out my product. It was my stuff. And if you don't want it, that's fine. I'll pay for shipping back to me, but it's my product. And you give it away. Okay.
Let me just, because I'm a little lost. So, okay, he couldn't get them for that weekend. So then you said, I guess on that Monday, send them to me. But how did he get rid of them then? If he
just hung on to them, never responded, never sent them back, and then just started giving them out to people.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now that
you laid out the money for them, you laid out the $1,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah. He didn't prepay nothing. Now, obviously, I've learned my lessons, and when I do shirts and stuff, I get prepayment before I get something. Because anyway, once he gave out my product, now he owned it. Now I expect to be paid for it, right? Well, then 2 years later, I still hadn't been paid. John Bergeson did the Fox Sports show at the Plaza in Vegas, 2004. He brought in Denise and I to help him run the event. Me head reffing, her doing brackets, and we were at registration. We were behind the desk doing registration. Travis comes up. He says, "Yeah, I know I owe you the money. How about if I win today, will you take half?" Well, it had already been 2 years. So I go, "Sure, fine. Go ahead." Now, are you able to bleep out curse words, or should I just use euphemisms?
No, you could use the curse words. We're good.
All right. So anyway, so I agree. Fine. You know what I mean? Cut my losses. I'll get something, right? We get into the tournament, and I'm reffing, and it's a pretty good show, frankly. And I'm reffing the final match of the day. Him pulling left-handed against I think Matt Gerdner, I think. And he wins. So they're filming, right? And he wins, and he pulls me in like he's giving me like a hug or something sideways. And he whispers in my ear, "I will never fucking pay you, you cocksucker."
Oh my God.
So
oh my God.
Now, I guarantee you may kick my ass, but you're not going to say something like that and not have something happen. Yeah. But I'm on film, and he knows I'm on film. He knows he's safe. He knows that there's literally nothing I can do but eat it.
You need the ethics committee now, bro. If they only had an ethics committee back then. I'm teasing, bro.
We took our own ethics. So I got back. I talked to my board of directors because the USAA has a board of directors. And I talked to my board of directors. We voted unanimously to send him a registered certified letter banning him from future USAA tournaments till he paid his bill in full, including interest. Well, I got to say, I'm not really butthurt about the whole deal, to be honest, because that was the best investment of $900 I've ever made in my life.
It's like the Bronx Tale, you think of that. You'll never see that guy again. So you paid to get him out of your life for the rest of the life.
for $900, I haven't had to deal with any of his antics, any of his bullshit on the table. I've reffed him once since then. Gary Roberts did a Rule of the Nation. He paid for me to come in and head ref his event. Travis Badgett was there, and I refereed his matches. Now, it's one of the things that I talk about with when I do referee seminars, and the rest of that is like, dude, you only have your integrity once. And so if you ever exhibit bias for or against somebody, nobody will ever forget that. You just can't ever let that happen. When you're refereeing at a certain level, there will be occasional gray area calls or coin flip calls. And if you're my best buddy, you are going to lose every one of those calls. And you got to just know that. And if I hate you, I wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. You will win every one of those calls. And so obviously, anybody can watch the video of that event. I treated him as fair as humanly possible. But that was the last time I've actually refereed Travis Badgett. And give the devil his due. He had a period of time where his left really was superior than anybody in the U.S., frankly. And I made no qualifications for where he is now or whatnot. But there was a period of time where his left really was dominant.
Yeah, he had the best left on the planet. He definitely did.
For a while.
Very long time, yeah. So let me ask you, moving forward now, is there any chance of ever, putting this behind and, maybe shaking his hand one day and squashing this and getting closure? Because I mean, we're talking about a beef that's like 20 years old.
Well, sure.
People grow, people make mistakes and all. And, we are part of this arm wrestling family. So
absolutely. And money talks and bullshit walks.
Yeah. So what would make it right? You want the initial balance? Or
we're probably up about $2,000 in interest by now, right?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. He wants his interest too. Okay.
Well, I mean, you take money from the bank and you don't pay it back. Do you think they're not going to charge you interest over time?
Yeah. Is there anything else that we could do to possibly make it right, or just making right?
No reason to. Look. Here's the deal, though. There's really no reason to. He's become irrelevant in our sport. He really has. If you talk to a new person out there and you start the conversation about arm wrestling, the first thing that they say is, "So who's that Canadian dude?" They all talking about Devin Lorette. Yeah. For right or wrong, for him being an ass or not an ass or whatever, all the new people are watching the videos, and it's all about Devin Lorette. A little bit about John Brzenk, but for the most part, because of his videos and all the rest of this, and Edward Waite, I think is that the name? Is that how you say his last name? The kid that does internet arm wrestling for. I think that's
Arm Wrestling Whisperer.
Yeah. Him and Devin Lorette, they've got the videos, they've got the followers, and they're who they're asking about. They're not asking about Travis Badgett. They don't know Travis from Adam. And frankly, Dave DeVoto and what he did with ESPN in the hell year was that? I think it might have been 2004 when they televised the Unified National in Indiana. That really made that really brought into that was the highest rated arm wrestling show on ESPN for arm wrestling. That Unified National was the highest rated show. It just goes to tell you that.
Let me ask you, Leonard. That brings me to this question, and it's actually from Jody Thunder, Chocolate Thunder Williams. You know Jody.
Yeah.
Ask Leonard, where does he see arm wrestling going forward with all the leagues and organizations?
Every event that's happening is all promoting our sport. Like every fitness show that you do an event at, you may not get a great turnout and so on and so forth, or as good a turnout as you would at a bar, for instance, but you're just exposing the sport. And you're getting more people to see the sport and become familiar with it. So as far as I'm concerned, the more events that are happening out there, the better it is. I don't really care if there's To me, it's better to have 40 events with 80 entries a tournament than 20 events with 200 entries a tournament. It's about exposing the sport to a bunch of different people. You know,
I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second, Leonard. One of my subs in there, Tall Paul. He says, "Don't mean to be disrespectful in any way, but I don't know who this fella is. Could anyone educate me?" So yeah, Leonard has been in the sport from the beginning. Like he was saying, he's been in from 1977. He's been probably the head ref, like the grandmaster ref. If you had to name one referee in our sport, Leonard is the guy. So
and I do more than just that. Denise and I run the United States Arm Wrestling. Now, to be fair, she runs it. I'm the president, but she runs it, and I'm not blowing smoke. She runs the organization. We wouldn't have a fourth of the events promoted and done well if it wasn't for her.
And I didn't mean to say that by like that, Leonard, like that you're just a referee. No, I was just starting the whole resume list and everything.
Yeah. But sometimes you get wrong, but I'm the president of the United States Arm Wrestling, and I do events in conjunction with Denise. Now, like I said, she runs the organization. She's setting up the tournaments, and she's doing most of the work in the organization. And once we show up in an event, then I'm the head referee at the event. Now, I started reffing internationally in 81, 82. I started doing in 92. I refereed at the Gold Bear in Moscow. It was the largest professional event in the world at the time. And I refereed in 92, 3, 4, 5. I pulled there in 96, skipped 97, and I refereed there in 98. And they had a pretty cool shtick. They did that in the Moscow Circus Arena, televised nationally. When they did the finals, they would bring the tables down out of the ceiling like a circus and set the table down the middle, did a couple matches, brought the table back up in the air and did circus acts, and then brought it back down again. It was really a big deal there.
Can you tell us about how did you come the head ref of WAF, and what year was that?
Well, when I started involving myself with WF was 98, and David Sheed set me up as his number 2 ref. So I was the deputy head referee from in 98, and I was his second in charge each year at the Worlds until 2002. He did something really stupid, and then tried to bluff his way through it. And at the general meeting and at the Congress meeting, the executive committee removed him, and they placed me temporarily as the head referee at WF in 2002. Then the next year in 2003, I was formally elected. Now, WAF, their system is designed to where the countries elect the head referee. Now, that's changed since Hassan has done some of his underhanded stuff. But anyway, the countries elect the head referee. So I'm answering to the countries. If I don't do my job and they don't like what I'm doing, they can take me out. And so I became the head referee for WF in 2002. You fast forward to 2019 in Turkey is when it all unraveled for me and WF and really a lot of the countries. When Hassan tried to really dictate everything that's going on in an event. Now you got to understand, by rule, that the head referee's job is to interpret and enforce the rules. It's not the president of WF. It's not even the countries, and the countries don't like the way that I'm managing the rules and interpreting the rules. They can always vote me out, but once Congress is over, only Congress at the time, by rule, only Congress had the ability to remove an elected official. And Hassan broke that rule, and he removed me in Turkey before the last day and and there was nothing that could be done about it. It is what it is. Was it illegal? Yeah, but neither here nor there. That was the last year that I was the WF head referee. Now, when IFA got formed, we did things a little bit different. They set up a referee panel. Now I had a referee panel in WF, and the way WF had it set up, the head referee appoints people to the referee panel. And I also had it set up. Now, this is my change, that only the referee panel can remove a referee. I wanted it set up to where, let's say I put you on the referee panel, right? And for whatever reason, you pissed me off, right? Well, before me, David Sheik could have just said, you pissed me off, you're off the referee panel. He appointed and he removed. And I felt that was a slippery slope, that like you shouldn't be removed just because you pissed me off, right? That it should be the entire referee panel. That if you did something bad enough, the referee panel should vote you off, not just me because you pissed me off. We can have a conflict and not lose your position on the referee panel. So anyway, when IFA was formed, they set up a referee panel. There's 7 of us, and we're not adding anybody. If we're going to remove somebody or add somebody, had to be voted on by the execs of IFA. And so I'm one of that referee panel for IFA. When the Worlds comes around for IFA, the referee panel votes one of our member to be that event's head referee. So technically, IFA doesn't have a standing head referee. We have a head referee at the World Championships, but not just a standing head referee. We're all equal. Now, frankly, the guys and ladies on the referee panel are easily just as good as I am. I think I have a little bit of an advantage because the USAA is so prolific.
Yeah.
We do so many events that I keep my skills sharp. You can't be good at this particular thing doing a couple times a year.
Yeah.
Now, when you get to be a master referee, can you coast and maintain that level? Absolutely. But to be really, really, really good at it, you need to work it. Now, everybody on the referee panel, they are working events and they are keeping their. So I don't mean to imply that they're not as good as me. I'm just saying they are as good as I am. Rick Pinkney, Judy, Camilla Katstrom, Keith Michelle from the United States. He just got added. Zil from Malaysia, Andre Moslov from Russia. Now Andre hasn't been able to come the last couple of times, and so he's kind of stepped back a little bit, and that's how Keith Michelle ended up on the referee panel. And Keith was on the referee panel for WF. So look, Keith Michelle, Rick Pinkney, all the people I just named off, they are as good as I am. No question about it.
I love it. I got to catch up on some super chats here. We got a $20 super chat from Matthias. Paul is the man. That's going to ref me versus Pradeep when you put that on. Thank you for that, bro. Appreciate that. Yeah, I see that, man. You want that match with Pradeep, bro. We're trying to get Pradeep out here for December 9th in Arizona. We're trying to find him a match. I know he was talking Aussie arm wrestler, but, hit up Pradeep, see what's up, man. I know you were saying you were around his weight and all. Thank you for that super chat. And guys, if you're in the chat, if you're enjoying this, I know I am. I'm loving this history and, just learning all this knowledge. But if you are too, so make sure to hit that thumbs up button for me. It really helps out my channel grow. And all.
You're talking about super matches. I really truly believe this. The more high profile your event, the more high profile your super match, the better your referee had better be.
Yeah. I agree with that.
It's just as simple as that.
Let me ask you, what do you think of the new refereeing going on at East versus West? Because at East versus West, what we were trying to go at is more of a viewer-friendly, ref style where we're not as strict, but still at the same time keeping, the quality of arm wrestling up there and not just letting fouls just blatantly go.
You're talking before about how everything the recycling stuff that was done 20 years ago. When the USAA was formed, our elbow rules was this, and when we did this for over a decade: elbow up, down, no position gain, no hand change, no call. Think about that. So what we weren't even talking about micro fouls, right? If your elbow come up 2 inches, as long as it came right back down, no position gain, no hand change, no call. Now, that style of rules, and again, we did it for over a decade, so I know those rules really well, obviously, and so does Keith Michelle, so does Lou Poulter. There's a number of referees out there that refereed that style for a long time. It's twice as hard to ref that than it is standard IFA/WF rules. Twice as hard, because you're asking that referee to make an instant decision on what happened and make a call. No hesitation, no thought process, no scratching your head on what exactly did or didn't happen. You got to see it and make your call. And it's really difficult to do. And so Ingen Tierney is asking his referees to do something similar to that at his East versus West. Now, I'm not saying the rule idea is a bad idea. It's more he's having WAF refs who spent their entire career seeing it, reacting, and making a call. No thought process. For good or bad, IFA, WF, if you're really good, if you're a master level ref, there is no thought process. You see it, you call it, and it's done. And you're now asking those referees who have done nothing but that style of reffing, you're now asking them to make a judgment call on the fly under pressure. And they're screwing it up. They're not making the calls. They're become hesitant. They're freezing rather than recognizing something and making an instant judgment call. Now, is that their fault?
No,
I'm not saying it's their fault.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, bro. And, I keep seeing the same thing. You can kind of see it in their face when, the situations are going on. They're kind of looking at each other and, kind of making that eye like, should I call it? Should I not? And, but I also at the same time, I understand it, because I've also had my friends and family where I bought them the pay-per-view just to watch arm wrestling. They're not arm wrestlers. They just, they know I enjoy it. So, they're going to watch. And when people do the strict reffing, a lot of times they have no idea what's going on and they kind of lose interest right away. They're just like, what the hell just happened? Why did they stop the match? I want to see this finally play out. Why are we saying this guy just lost the fouls? They just were kind of lost with that and lost interest. Where when they were watching East versus West and they get these exciting matches, and you might have a couple of little infractions that might not be called, per se, like Jerry versus Gennady. It was kind of, back and forth, Gennady going off the back, Jerry coming off the front, but we kind of were a little more lenient, and it led to a great war that went on. So, I kind of agree, and I kind of feel like there's got to be a balance, but I definitely understand where you're saying, Leonard. It is very confusing for these head refs that have been doing this their whole life, in WAF rules, very strict, and now we're asking them to go against their natural instincts, and also it's definitely gonna, present a challenge and all. But do you understand like the whole thing? Do you agree that for us to get these non-arm wrestling fans watching, that we kind of got to do that and kind of go away from being so tight with the calls?
You want to get back, non-arm wrestling fans, you want to get back to the excitement of our sport, go back to an elbow pocket.
Say that again. Back to when?
Go back to an elbow pocket.
With the circles, is that what that is?
Well, look, circles, squares, and elbow pocket. Now, one of the things that I was attempting to do before WAF left me or kicked me out or whatever terminology you want to use, I was in the process of developing a square elbow pocket. Now, is round elbow pockets easier to do because we did them since the beginning of time? I mean, watch Over the Top. Those are round elbow pockets, right? And in a round elbow pocket or a square elbow pocket, whatever happens inside that pocket didn't happen, number one. Number two, when I post up, I drive my elbow forward to post move. Guess what? I can feel the front of the pocket. On a square flat top pad, I post up. I don't know where the front of the pocket is till I go too far over. And the same thing with doing a lat drag or hitting left and right. You have sides that temporarily slow you down or stop you or let you know where they are. And until we go back to some sort of pockets, it will always be an issue. It will always be ticky-tack fouls that the referees are forced to call because the rules are the rules.
Leonard, let me ask you this. Why did we go away from the pockets? You know, if they were so good, then why would we have evolved away from them?
It was a WAF thing. They're the ones that pushed, and Petaluma World Wrestling had a square open pocket, but they were a pocket. Everybody had pockets.
Why did we go away from the pockets? What was the reasoning? Like, was there any kind of problem that we were seeing because of the pockets?
Well, yes and no. Okay, so like if your pocket is done badly. Let's say a round donut pocket, right? Yeah. If your pocket is done badly and is too deep, you can rest your forearm on the side of the pocket. And because there was a few that did poorly designed pockets and people started resting their elbow on the side of the pocket, they attempted to fix that by doing away with the sides altogether and just doing a square flat top pad. And it's about a third of the cost of making those square flat top pads as it was making a round donut. A round donut involved a upholstery shop and some money. They're not exactly that inexpensive to make. And so I wasn't involved in WFN, so I wasn't there at the meetings. I wasn't there when all these decisions were made. I'm making my own guesses on why they came away from round donut pads and they went to square flat top pads. All I know is that the moment they did it and the moment it became popular around the U.S. and people started converting to it, it changed the whole nature of the sport. People aren't as aggressive as they used to be back in the 80s. They're not hitting the way they used to be because you're worried about your elbow foul. It's more conservative. There's more elbow calls made now. I mean, if your elbow popped up, let's say you had a 1 inch deep pocket, right? If your elbow did so-called micro foul or it came up even to an inch, if it doesn't come up above the outer level of that donut, it wasn't a foul. And so we weren't having to stop matches then. We weren't having to do all those things. People weren't driving their elbow off of the sides of the pad. Now, I did some prototypes. I did some experimental ones. And in every tournament I used my prototypes, the elbow fouls went down to 20% of what they were before. 20%.
See, I think that's something we need to look into. Engen, if you're listening, bro, maybe something to implement.
Well, the problem is manufacturing them. Like I know round donuts would have been easier to do, and it's a tried and true formula. People out there today that have round donuts in their practices and some of their old tables, right? The problem is that if you're And again, when I was doing all this was before the advent of all of these super matches. So 2019 was when I had prototypes at WAF. They just weren't what needed to be happen yet. And there wasn't the advent of all of these super matches back then. In my opinion, all these super matches should be done on some sort of pocket. And then you'll have true matches without worrying about the arm wrestlers making elbow fouls that they shouldn't have to make. Now, for local tournaments or regular tournaments, it needs to be a prototype done to where the pockets are durable, relatively inexpensive to make, and it needs to get voted in on the international level. See, the reason USAA went away from elbow up, down, no position gain, no call was really Alan Fisher. We went to Canada for the WF Worlds. Alan Fisher at the time was the best 165 in the country, and actually probably in the world at that point. And we were using our USAA rules that I just stated. Bill Collins was using our rules. Everybody out west, up to the Midwest, was using our rules. Elbow up, down, no position gain, no call. Alan Fisher goes to the World Championship, and he's used to those rules, right? Now, he knows what the new rules are. He knows that he's got to keep his elbow down on that pad. He went 2-2. 1-2, lost 2. Didn't even place in the top 4 or 5. And so on our ride home with the USAA board, because it was in Canada and we're in Montana, so we drove up to it. On our ride home, we came to the decision that actually our rules were hurting the competitors. They weren't learning the skills to keep their elbow down. They were relying on the rules saying elbow up, down, no position gain, no call. And then they get to an international event and they just foul out. They just elbow foul out. And so that day, that trip home, we changed our rules to WF rules. And I don't regret it. I think people around the country should be using strict WF rules, IFA rules, and until they change, because we're not doing our people any favors by doing loose rules and then they go to a national or a world event and they just foul out. Now, super matches are a different story, and all these super matches should somehow, some way, come up with either a round donut or, and I'm still open to a manufacturer out there being able to make me a square pocket. I have not given up on that concept, that a square pocket elbow pad that has durability that'll last, that's relatively, and I'm talking like, I don't want $100 a set of pads, relatively inexpensive, to then be voted on internationally. Once we do that, it will change the nature of our sport literally worldwide overnight if they start using those pads.
Let me ask you, is there any way that maybe the pockets were causing any kind of injuries, like any kind of arm break?
And I think if they get deep enough and you're putting a lot of sideways pressure on the forearm, maybe something happened. I don't know. Traditionally, when somebody hurts their arm, it isn't their forearm. So maybe somebody got hurt that I didn't know about. I just know that one of the issues was if they got too deep, they were able to rest on the sides.
Okay. How long were these pockets used for, would you say? I'm just curious. I want to really look back in this history now, and this is really interesting. I might even throw this in as tomorrow's trivia question.
I think round pockets were used pretty consistently up into the early 90s. I mean, when was Over the Top made?
80s, what was it, 87, something like that, or 84?
Yeah, I remember exactly when the Over the Top was made, but yeah, as you look in the film, they were using round donuts.
Yeah, I know, because they a couple people have those tables still, and they use them for their practices and all. Guys, if you're in the chat and you know what year Over the Top was made, please just post it up there for us.
See, there was 3 TV phenomenons that affected our sport. The first was Wide World of Sports, right? With Petaluma and Wide World of Sports. The second one was Over the Top, like that. That brought out a lot of events that gave a resurgence to our sport, made a lot of people excited about our sport. And oddly enough, the third one.
Hold on. I just want to keep everybody up. So Over the Top, that was brought together with Marvin Cohen and Lori Cole. Big shout out to them. If Lori's listening, she's a big supporter, helps me out with a lot of the trivia. And she also has the Over the Top trivia page. Get over there to that group, and you guys will learn a lot. Really, really interesting stuff. So yeah, I'm sorry, Leonard, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to get everybody on that.
And then the third one, oddly enough, was Game of Arms. Game of Arms did as much for our sport as anything else ever did. Everybody's tournament numbers all fluctuated up. They were all watching it. Yeah, it was bullshit arm wrestling, but it was entertaining, right? Oh, yeah. And it was on all the time. They did a ton of shows, and they got halfway decent ratings at it. The Game of Arms brought in more people than you could imagine. Now, Now, when WAL came about, it did just the opposite. WAL, between them doing funky rules and new tables and elbows and all the rest of that bullshit, WAL was not good for our sport at all. And we're still today reaping the the negative aspects of their silly ass rules. It just amazes me as people
Leonard,
are.
please explain more. Other than the rules, though, you don't think it was a positive influence on our sport?
No, because it was presented as some kind of tournament arm wrestling, but the guys were acting outrageous, and so Game of Arms was more. It was one team against the other. It wasn't presented as tournament arm wrestling, even though there was matches. It wasn't presented as tournament arm wrestling, and so their antics didn't transfer into antics at tournaments. WAL was tournament arm wrestling, presented as tournament arm wrestling, and all of their antics and all their crap that they did then transferred into tournament arm wrestling. And what few new people got brought in by it was doing all that stupid stuff in addition. It was not good for our sport. And frankly, I'm still amazed that tournaments are done with rules from a dead organization. I mean, how many years has it been since they did an event? And their last so-called event, they screwed a lot of the officials and a lot of the people. They canceled it at the last minute, like Keith Michelle I was talking about. He had an airline ticket he paid for to be there that he was expecting to get reimbursed, right? They canceled it at the last second. Did he get reimbursed? Hell no.
Leonard, was this right before? This was right before COVID. You got to remember, this is right when I got into the sport, bro. So I never got to see a WAL live or anything. It was before me. So how, like, give me an idea of when this went down.
It had nothing to do with COVID. It was more about money. Look, I don't care how rich you are. You're only going to lose money for a certain amount of time before you finally go, that's enough. And right before the finals, when he was going to have to give out a lot of money, he canceled it.
Wow. I didn't know that. And that brings me to this question, because there's a lot of rumors. And I mean, they still have a group page that, they're constantly posting on. And, I actually commented the other day and I'm like, when are you guys coming back? Or is this meant just to tease us more and all? But the rumors I keep hearing is that they are going to be coming back. I've been hearing the end of this year, possibly the beginning of 2024. And then the other rumor that's been surfacing for the last couple of years since I got into the sport was that Game of Arms is coming back, that they're casting, some reality show or something, and that, possibly could be making a run. But, you hear this and you stop believing it, now that we're on like 3 years and you still haven't seen no action or anything other than rumors being spread out there. So I just kind of want to get your opinion, bro. Do you ever see them coming back?
I mean, if I would applaud Game of Arms coming back, whatever form, AMC promoted the hell out of that show, commercials and showing it. Game of Arms was definitely a plus. Now, I admit that one of the things that irritated me about WAL is that they baked into the system poor refereeing. And here's the deal. Before they started, I had an opportunity to talk to him about it. I had an opportunity to offer him master level referees at all of his events for the same or less than he was paying his regular referees. And he turned it down. And he said, I don't want good reffing. I don't want that. I want bad reffing. I want the controversy. I want the rules to be changing at a moment's notice. Like I like Bart Wood, but Game of Arms did not. WL did not help his reputation at all, and it ain't his fault. They would change the rules on a whim, and nobody knew about it but him. Or they'd be in his ear during matches, live during matches, in his ear, telling him to not call fouls.
Now, Leonard, do you think part of the problem here is that Steve Copeland was not an arm wrestler himself, and kind of like, a non-arm wrestler trying to run an arm wrestling organization, it leaves a lot to, try figuring out and maybe not getting the right moves right away.
He was wanting chaos. He could care less about arm wrestling, frankly, and I don't fault him for that. It is what it is. But he wanted chaos. He wanted controversy. He wanted WWF style with arm wrestling. And what's ironic is that his ratings for that style of arm wrestling never even came close to the ratings that Dave Devoto got with a standard WAF rule, Unified Nationals in Rising Sun, Indiana, because they focused what Dave Devoto did and Savan Matosian. They focused on a few arm wrestlers, followed them through the tournament, made it about those arm wrestlers, and that drew an audience. That drew good results on ESPN. WL. One of the reasons they stopped is their ratings were so bad that ESPN had to rebate money on commercials. You're expected to have a certain amount of viewership to make your commercial viable, and if you don't, ESPN owes you money back. They couldn't meet their nut on it. They had a problem with it. It was not popular. That style did not draw an audience.
Leonard, just 1 second. We got somebody in the chat that seems to be very informed. He's saying WAL was not arm wrestling in mind. You said Steve Simon, but it's Steve Copeland is a billionaire who makes money. He saw arm wrestling as an unexploited source of cash. And then he said that it was $245,000 he canceled. There was never a contract with ESPN. And that was a cover story. And then he said, AMC, Steve was a board member at AMC, promoted his own show on the channel. He wanted arm wrestling to be like WWE wrestling, sell your UWAL t-shirts at Walmart. Gotcha.
Yeah. That's totally correct. Totally correct. He wanted WAL to be a WWE, WWF, whatever you want to. He wanted that style, and it didn't work.
But so you don't think they're coming back then, bro? You think it's just blowing smoke, rumors and all?
I see no reason. How much money is he going to lose this time?
What if they reached out and went with a different formula and reached out with King and Table, reached out to East versus West, and kind of did like a worldwide kind of thing, uniting all the leagues? Do you think that would have potential? Because I mean, personally, bro, I just want more arm wrestling. And, I feel like we don't have that high caliber stage right now in North America. We got a couple other promotions that are doing its thing and all, but nothing like, that old WAL. And when I say that, when I first got into sport, that was what I seen. And it looked like the UFC of arm wrestling. It looked cool. It made it look like, holy shit, our sport is like for real. It's not just, an underground. This was like in the spotlight kind of thing. So I would love to see WAL make a comeback. I understand what you're saying as far as the rules and all, but at the same time, that was just their way of trying to get the viewers to come in. It might not have been the best way, but at least they were trying. So I just want to put that out there. WAL, Steve Copeland, man. I feel like what you were missing that first time is you need yourself a Dana White, man. And when you come back, if you do come back, Paul Italia's here. I'll be your Dana White. I'll take you guys for the ride. I'll be the showman. I'll set the matches, and we'll do this right, guys. I just want to see high caliber action back in North America. I love having a King of Table. I love having East versus West, Istanbul, Turkey. I even love Michael Todd's got the Monster Factory over here, but I still feel like we need that, top level, to come back and just, kind of get action going back here in North America. That's just right. My personal opinion.
If WAL came back to do super matches and not tournaments, then because again, that puts the focus back on individual arm wrestlers and not just like tournament arm wrestling. Tournament arm wrestling is not viewer friendly for TV. And the reason the Savan Matosian and the Unified Nationals in 2004 worked was it was a mixture of, yeah, there was he showed some matches from the tournament, but most of it was him following arm wrestlers through the tournament and their matches and interviews with. He took 4 arm wrestlers and he followed them through the tournament, and that's what made it interesting to the audience. And he got a big result from viewership. Tournament arm wrestling, I don't care how much you hype it up, and I don't care how much you make it seem like it's over the top and so on and so forth. That's not going to appeal to the audience. It just isn't.
Yeah, it'd be more towards the arm wrestling Pacific, the guy that's just like that big arm wrestling fan. I feel like they'd be more into the tournament, where the non-arm wrestlers, you'd probably get more into the super matches. But we gotta,
because they're making you make it personal. You get to identify with that arm wrestler with the interviews, and you're going down through it. That's what made it work for Savan Matosian.
Leonard, hold that thought, because I have an idea with that, but I want to first read off this super chat. We got a $5 super chat from Bob Bobbin. Sorry if I missed what happened to the guy you were trying to get a match for that Monster laid down for. Thank you for that super chat. So, Bob, yeah, what I did with that was, that was Bo Olsen, who, that guy is a unbelievable puller, has been in the sport for some time, real OG and all. So what I did at the Cobra Classic was one of the East versus West qualifiers. I teamed up with Cobra Rhodes, and I got him a super match, and he pulled Quinlan Mendez, and Bo James Olsen received the win that day in very dominating fashion. And Bo's been on a tear, man. I think he just won at the Strongest Badge. He had a big super match, and he also got the win that day. It was a really good one. Leonard, I want to get back to that thought. What about if we did kind of like, Ultimate Fighter reality show, but for arm wrestling, where, we get a house or, and we put in 2 teams, and we get like 2 coaches, maybe like Devin Lorette, Team Blue, and Team Red is Travis Bajent. And, the athletes live in the house, pick a couple different weight classes to make it the features, and kind of just go through their whole training and their preparation for their upcoming super match with the guy on the other team. And just these guys living together, and with arm wrestlers, bro, we're kind of crazy, so there's definitely going to be drama in that house. There's going to be a lot of crazy stuff, and I think that would just attract a lot of new eyes on the sport, and guys that are just not arm wrestlers. I think they would really eat that up, man. Do you think that there's something, that there could be?
Okay, but why did you have to bring up Travis? Really? You can't come
my bad, bro.
Why can't you come? Look, dude. And I'll do a little inside baseball, right? When you first came out on the scene,
yep.
Right, for good or bad, you hooked yourself up with Travis, and one of the first things that I said was, if you're involved with Travis, then nothing good's ever going to happen with that. Nothing ever good happens with that man, and so involving him in anything that happens is just a recipe for disaster. It just is. So
let me just throw this in, Leonard. I didn't even think of that, and I did not mean to throw Travis in there. The reason why I say Travis and Devin, because the way I look at it is the 2 voices of arm wrestling that are very noticeable to non-arm wrestlers, and that just got that it character is Travis and Devin. And I just want to.
Might have been 10 years ago, but look, dude, nobody. His time has come and gone. You want to have 2 people? Put Michael Todd and
get out of here. No. I agree. I disagree. The toddler is not the guy, bro. The toddler is too insecure. He's got too many issues. He's got too many personal issues that man should not be spotlighted for. So I will never get behind that, bro. The hell no. But listen, man, what I want to
Michael over Travis in a heartbeat.
No, bro. Because you obviously don't know that much about Michael Todd then, bro. If you knew what I knew about Michael Todd, there's no man on this earth that would agree with that. Hell no. But I don't want to go there with that right now. Me and Toddler, we put that whatever, I'm not going to give him any more attention. But I do want to talk on what you just said about how when I first came into the sport, I teamed up with Travis and we went around. One thing I got to say about Travis, bro, is Travis, I still consider Travis a good friend of mine. I know you guys had your differences. I know a lot of people had their differences with Travis and all, but I've always had good experience with Travis. I've never had a bad experience. I've never had him do anything wrong to me that I would say I have a problem with. Travis was always my boy. But I'm also different than most people. I made it clear, from day one, like, if you think you're coming in my pocket, bro, that's just not happening. Actually the other way around, I turned that thing around on people, and Travis respected me for that, so I will never talk shit on Travis. I always consider him a friend. I consider you a friend as well. I do remember when you and Denise hit me up and, you kind of made it clear, like, you're around Travis. I wouldn't recommend that. And, I took that, I took your advice and all, I listened it out, but, I judge my own character and all. And I just, like I said, I never had an issue with Travis, but now to this day, I've worked with you guys, we've did a couple of things, not together throwing an event, but, we've been involved in the same events and all. And we've always had a great experience and a great friendship and relationship. And I always value that with you and Denise. And, I just want that clear, bro. I never.
No, and what's cool about our sport is that for the most part, we allow each other to have a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
And you don't have to agree with me. I don't have to agree with you. I mean, frankly, the biggest problem I have with politics nowadays is like nobody allows anybody to have a difference of opinion without being personal about it.
Cancel culture. Everything's canceled.
Absolutely. I can disagree with you about Michael, and you can disagree with me about Devin, and that's cool. You know what I mean? We all have different experiences with different people, right?
Exactly.
And we're at a different spot. Like the USAA has grown over time. Like we didn't used to have contracts. We do an event for you. We do an event somewhere. We did a verbal confirmation of what we do, what you do, and everything went fine until somebody stiffed us. Well, then we started getting contracts. Well, then, we had somebody stiff us out of town, and we quickly found out that there's things in our contract that had to be in there. Like if I'm going to sue you for breach of contract, where's the suit going to happen? If I'm doing a tournament in South Dakota and you breach the contract and I don't have in my contract that the suit happens in Billings, Montana, that means that I have to travel all the way to South Dakota to take you to court. Yeah. And again, we learned to put that in our contract that any conflicts, the litigation happens in Billings, Montana. Well, then, all right. So we had that. Well, then we had another problem. All right. Well, okay. If you don't have the right to recover attorney fees, everything I just said is all bullshit. Because if you don't have the right to recover attorney fees, it costs you more to recover, or it costs you more to win the suit than leaving alone. And so that was another thing. Well, we learned all this over time. It comes from Denise and I doing tournaments. We've done like 1,000 tournaments, right? Since 1985. We've been pretty prolific. And again,
can I ask you this, Leonard? Are you guys, your organization, would you say are the most active and through the most tournaments out of any other organization in arm wrestling history?
No question.
That's what I was thinking. And for you guys that don't know, these guys literally, they throw events once a month. And I mean, this has been going on for, what are we on, 30, 40 years now?
We've averaged almost 30 tournaments a year for over 30 years.
Oh my
Average,
that's
right?
crazy.
And a couple years ago, Denise got this bright idea, and this is her wordage. She got this bright idea that there's tournaments all over the country, and it's more tournaments than than we have any desire to do. And so we developed the certified promoter program to where you're putting on events under our name. but we know that you're going to do our procedures and our techniques, and you're going to run a quality event because you're doing it under our name. So we have certified promoters like Michael Todd's one, Luke Pulcher's one, Corey Miller. I mean, we got certified promoters.
You guys with what was it, John Breida and all them in Louisiana and Chop, right?
Yep. In Louisiana, we have certified promoters scattered around the U.S. and they're putting on events under our association. Now, we know that they're using good refs. We know that they're running things the way that things are supposed to be. And in return, we're giving them some of that knowledge that we've developed over time. We help them with contracts. We help them with entry forms and releases and all the rest of that other stuff, right? Speaking of releases, you new promoters out there, you better realize that release form doesn't release you from negligence. You put on events with unqualified referees and somebody gets hurt, you've opened yourself up to being sued for negligence. That release releases you from accidents. And if your referees do things that's not.
Let me ask you a question. Who actually determines who's certified then? I understand that you certify the referees and all, but when you go into a court of law, they're going to look at whatever, the arm wrestling, they're not going to go by that, so.
Absolutely. They're going to go by what is normal and customary for our industry.
Yeah, but if there's so many different organizations and each one of them has their own referees and certifications, there's no one governing body, I feel like, for arm wrestling, and that's where it gets a little confusing. And I just feel like the courts, how would that hold up in a court then?
Well, there's actually very few. You have WAF, you have IFA, and then you have some independents like Bill Collins with UAL. But like all of my certifications are all going through the USAA and therefore into IFA. Not IFA in particular, but that's the organization that I'm a member of. But the USAA is the premier arm wrestling association in the United States. It just is. And we have been for a long time. Now, AAA used to be it. But they're no longer it. For whatever reason,
my question for you, Leonard, is has anybody ever went through the court systems getting sued, and has this ever been worked out where they've been presented liable for the negligence of like somebody's arm break and all? Has that ever happened for us? Because I remember Bill Collins like saying something when I first entered the sport, and I think he might have had some situation like that. Do you know of anything like that?
Yeah, Bill Collins actually went to court over somebody upset that they were a new person and they entered a open division, and they didn't think that they should have been arm wrestling against a certain person. And Bill won. And you got to remember, this is California, which is the most litigious state in the world.
What do you mean? I'm offended. What do you mean? I'm offended. Right, no, I'm kidding. Right. Exactly.
But in reality, I've been a consultant in lawsuits for just that. And why did they ask me to be a consultant, watching video and giving my opinion on what happened and what should have happened? Because the USAA is the premier organization. And we have the best refs in the world, and it is what it is. So yeah, if it happens, then and you don't have certified qualified referees, you're not helping yourself. Now, look, the one of the, I shouldn't say defenses, but one of the things that if somebody gets hurt at your event, the best thing you can do is A, show compassion, B, show caring, and C, follow up and make sure that they're doing okay. When somebody gets hurt,
listen to this, promoters. This is very, very important stuff. This is stuff you guys really got to know, especially you newbie promoters. Listen again.
You follow up. You check with them. You make sure that they made it out of the hospital okay. You call them at home. How are you doing? How's your arm? When is your appointment with the orthopedic surgeon? Giving them information on, in the past, this type of injury. 90% of the time they got surgery, they got a plate. If you decide to go the natural route and have it heal naturally, you're going to be in a hanging cast. You're going to be there for 2 to 3 months. There's no guarantee it's actually going to bond. You know what I mean? If you have surgery, you're back at work in under 2 weeks, right? But this is the information that you're giving them, so they're knowledgeable when they go into their orthopedic surgeon. Maybe they don't want surgery, maybe they do, but at least you're giving them information. They have
and it's
surgery.
just that info of you helping them and kind of like holding them, holding their hand, because when I see somebody hurt themselves, particularly if I see them pop a bicep tendon, me doing it both arms, I kind of feel like I'm a pro by now. So I always hit them up right away, and I go through the whole routine. I tell them what to expect, and I try making them feel more positive and, just trying to make them feel better. Just that alone makes people feel much better.
And when they do get hurt, how you take care of them at the tournament right after they get hurt, there is more potential for damage to the arm after the break than the break itself. Get them off the stage, get them away from everybody, set them down in a chair. If somebody supplies ice, you put on the back of their neck. Never put ice on the arm. It contracts the muscles, and then you have pieces inside there. It's not good to contract that muscle. When the paramedics come, dude, you have most paramedics, bless their hearts, see very little spiral fractures. You're in a rodeo area, you're in a ski area, and child abuse. That's when they see spiral fractures. So they come in and you tell them it's an arm wrestling break. They have no idea it's a spiral fracture. And so you're giving them information. You're telling them it's a spiral fracture, upper humerus, couple inches up from the elbow. And here's the key phrases that all of you referees and all you promoters, paramedics in the past have done this. Mobilize the arm to the body, get them to the hospital, let them see where that bone is at. If you try to tell a paramedic instructions on what to do, 99% of the time it's going to go badly. Paramedics in the past have done this. Those are magic words. You're not telling them what to do. You're giving them information on what's happened in the past. Once they get to the hospital, they can take x-rays and see exactly where it is. I follow up. I've looked at x-rays. I know that occasionally it's a half inch from going compound. You don't want that arm being moved around. We're not laying them down for a reason because we don't want that arm to move, right? There's all kinds of silly stuff that we're doing. And look, you got to keep and the last thing I'll say about it, and we'll go on because it's a sensitive subject and it gives me the willies talking about it because I've seen more than my share. You want them to talk to you. You want them to get to be talking to you. Well, unfortunately, we had a kid get hurt this last weekend that I was at. I know he's 35. I know he's divorced. I know he has an 8-year-old girl and a 4-year-old boy. I know he played football in college. I know he played outside linebacker. You get them to give you their life story. You get them talking to you to keep them out of shock, and it works. And by the time we're done, you'll know everything about that guy humanly possible. And there's nothing wrong with telling him, look, dude, I'm wanting you to talk to me. I'm asking you leading questions for a reason. Continue to talk to me. And it works. It works. It's worked over time. We don't have as much injuries now as there was back in the 70s and 80s. People forget about that. Like in the 70s and 80s, there was no such thing as a hurt arm position. They weren't adjusting you at the table. They weren't telling you to look at your arm. They weren't telling you to keep your elbow in your body. They weren't telling you to lead your shoulder with your arm. Frankly, they didn't really know why it was happening. I'll be honest. People didn't know why. Like there was a broken arm every other tournament. Every other tournament. I was at tournaments in the early 80s. There was 3 in the same tournament.
Oh my God, dude. That is just nuts.
People weren't, and honestly, it wasn't until, and I'm one of them, people started watching video, and God, I just hate watching because there wasn't a lot of video. Look, people had big ass VCRs, right? Yeah. It wasn't like everybody had a phone up and videotaping it, right? So it wasn't like a lot of people were watching video, but it didn't take long of watching tape to say, oh, That's why that happened. Every time somebody gets into that position, something bad happens, and eventually, over time, that's where the dangerous position, the hurt arm position, got brought into effect. Was people actually watching old VCR tapes and watching injuries, and it's frankly, I watched so much of it back then, trying to figure out why it was all happening. I won't watch it again. Somebody comes on, I ain't watching no more. I've seen more. Hell no. But anyway,
hold on one second, Leonard. We got to catch up on Super Chat. We got $1.99 from Cole Gray. Who is Leonard's favorite arm wrestler now and all time? Thank you, Cole. I appreciate that. Leonard, who is it?
I gotta admit, it's still John Brzenk, and I'll give a quick follow of that. One of the things about John that makes him so unique is like he's still doing it for the challenge. Like if he knows he can beat you top rolling, and let's say you're really, really good in a hook, he'll get on the A side, beat you top rolling, gets to the A side, and he'll hook with you. He'll deliberately hook with you. He'll go into your best move just to see if he can beat you at it. And if he can't, all right, he takes the loss. Now he top rolls and he wins the tournament. Like, who does that? Who does that? I know nobody on the face of the planet that if they can beat you top rolling, when the hell would they hook you? Yeah. But John does that for the challenge. He really enjoys arm wrestling.
From Mr. Peanut, I started investigating arm breaks in 1987. I've studied over 400 arm breaks in 23 independent medical studies. The first arm wrestling injury study was published in 1977. Arm wrestling, a humorous break. Mr. Peanut, I strongly encourage you to go over to my channel and go to the one with Tyler Noblet. And he just unfortunately going through a crazy circumstance where he broke both arms. He broke his right arm, I believe it was 3 weeks ago. And then, 2 weeks later, he went and broke his left arm in practice. So now he's dealing with a double arm break. And my question for you guys is, have you guys known anybody in the past to do that, where they broke both arms at the same time?
Well, I talked to Tyler this last weekend, and I didn't get into details about why he was taking a particular medication, but he was taking a medication that he didn't know gave him weak bones. He did not know that was a side effect, and that's exactly why it happened to him. Now,
so guys, I want you guys to know, the arm wrestlers out there, he was taking an antacid for his stomach. So when you go to these doctors, you have to let them know that you were an arm wrestler, because now you could see the situation you could be put in, not even realizing. And that is something that I strongly, strongly suggest. Anytime you take any kind of new medication, do your research, talk to the doctors, Google, find out for yourself. Even if you're taking performance enhancing drugs, also PEDs, that's another thing. A lot of guys listen to bodybuilders and, they get their bro science, and little do they know, that worked for bodybuilding. But if you go and take that same cycle in arm wrestling, you're going to pop a tendon, you're going to break an arm, so definitely something to think about. And if you haven't already, get over to that interview. That was just so much info packed in there, and we're definitely going to be following up with Tyler and having him come on and kind of guide us through his whole recovery process. Guy's a really great kid, man. Really, really good person.
Yes. Absolutely.
Definitely. I don't mean to cut this short, bro, but we've been on already for 1 hour and 40 minutes and all, but I definitely would I definitely want to get you on again, bro. We definitely got a lot more topics I want to get into, and I just love all this history and knowledge. I'm just playing like a sponge over here, just soaking up it all. Really enjoyed this interview, Leonard. I really appreciate it. And is there anywhere that I could put out there for like the promoters, new promoters out there, if they want to get in touch with you, or if somebody's looking for you to possibly be the head ref or anything, where could they get in touch with you?
Well, they can always email me. HDAWARDS@msn.com. You can message me on Facebook and whatnot. And oddly enough, me and the other master referees around the United States, Sean Hancock, Keith Michelle, myself, Luke Pulcher, we're the only 4 international master referees. and none of us are charging a lot of money to come to your event.
Take
and I'm not going
advantage
to.
of this, guys. Get a legend referee here. He's saying he's not expensive. They love just being part of the arm wrestling world and, going to these great events. So definitely take full advantage of that. Work with Leonard. Great referee.
Thank you.
And also next time when we get on, I would love to get your partner on there, Denise. Denise Waddles. She's another pioneer in our sport, and I'd love to have both you guys on in the near future for sure. And guys, if you haven't already, click that thumbs up button, man. This has been a great interview. Also, shout out to the sponsors. I'm wearing their shirt right now, griparmsports.com. Get over there, use the code Italia15, receive 15% off. If you're looking for some good, high quality arm wrestling handles, get over to gripzilla.com, use the code Paul10, receive 10% off. And if you got any injuries, us arm wrestlers, we're always getting injured and all. If you got some serious injuries you need to get fixed and worked on, get over to VitaCell Biologics, stem cell therapy. I'll attach the link in my description. Definitely a lot of the great arm wrestlers have been getting the benefits of stem cell therapy. They definitely work. So then again, thank you again for coming on, Leonard. I really appreciate this interview, and I look forward to having you on in the future. And thank you guys for tuning in. And if you haven't already, make sure to get over to the Arm Wrestling Buzz Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. We have a good show set up. We got Freddie Sanchez, we got Greg Brown, and we got Barry Bowen making his appearance again in the arm wrestling world. Going to be a great show. So definitely tune in there as well. Thank you again, Leonard. Have a great day, brother.